We tend to picture ancient burials as quiet, reverent affairs, but on the banks of the River Deben in the early 7th century, this was an active, brutal construction site. Thick mud, freezing fog, and hundreds of men straining in unison. They were dragging a 27-meter oak warship, nearly 90 feet of solid timber, by hand. This was post-Roman Britain. The island was divided into a fractured landscape of competing Anglo-Saxon territories, known as the Heptarchy. Out of this volatile map, the Kingdom of East Anglia was consolidating power, driven by the ambitions of King Rædwald. The construction at Mound 1 functioned as a deafening, massive, state-sponsored public works project, a display of the regime's capacity to command labor on a scale that projected absolute authority. This image shows a page from the original Beowulf manuscript. For decades, historians have viewed the Sutton Hoo Burial through the lens of this epic poetry, a world of dragons, cursed gold, and heroic chiefs. The physical volume of this hull imprint, the sheer scale of the displaced earth, proves we are looking at a managed, brutal logistical operation executed by an administrative state. Rædwald was positioning himself as a Bretwalda, an overking. To claim that title required absolute domestic authority. In the centuries after the Roman retreat, ultimate power did not come solely from having the largest army. It relied entirely on economic leverage and unmatchable control over international supply chains. The burial of King Rædwald was a calculated geopolitical flex. He was utilizing raw logistics and international bullion to mathematically prove his supremacy to every rival on the island. Consider the physical parameters of the clinker-built warship itself. It measured 27 meters from stem to stern and 4.4 meters wide in the beam. Just to operate the vessel on the water required a massive crew, with 40 individual oar positions arrayed along the gunwales. Now factor in the brute force required to drag that immense dead weight uphill, fighting gravity from the estuary to the burial site. Conscripting the labor force to move it meant pulling hundreds of men away from agriculture. That is an enormous caloric and administrative cost for an early medieval economy to absorb. Then a trench had to be dug, deep and long enough to perfectly house the hull. These archaeologists standing inside the excavated trench give you a sense of the human scale. Lowering a heavy oak structure of this magnitude safely into the earth without shattering the timber required exact, dangerous engineering. Once the ship was seated in the trench, workers constructed a pitched-roof timber burial chamber directly inside the belly of the vessel. This timber chamber acted as a highly secure vault for the kingdom's liquid capital. Outside, it was all luff timber, sweat, and mud. Inside, they were about to deposit gleaming, master-crafted wealth. The labor alone served as a terrifying demonstration to observing rivals. It proved the East Anglian state's capacity to mobilize and control massive human resources at will. We have to look past the physical structure and examine the grave goods themselves. This is a deliberate political ledger of East Anglia's international reach. Inside a specialized purse, excavators found these 37 gold shillings, known as tremises. The critical detail here is that each one of these 37 coins originated from a completely different Frankish mint on the continent. Collecting this specific, varied assortment mathematically proves that East Anglia had established extensive, active diplomatic and economic ties straight across the English Channel. The connections reached much further than France. The chamber also held imported Byzantine silver bowls from the eastern Mediterranean, and beneath them sat a massive silver platter, stamped explicitly by the Eastern Roman Emperor Anastasius I, spanning a massive geographic divide. Acquiring a piece bearing a direct imperial stamp signals that the East Anglian court had secured access to the absolute highest echelons of global trade networks. It took precise, strategic geopolitical leverage to pull that kind of concentrated wealth from the remnants of the Roman Empire, all the way into post-Roman Britain. This collection of bullion acted as a physical audit. It proved Rædwald's unmatchable international trade monopoly. The ledger extends from finished currency down to raw materials. Researchers found lumps of Syrian bitumen deliberately placed in the chamber. Then there is the garnet cloisonné cellwork covering the king's shoulder clasps and sword harness. Securing the specific garnets used in those exact mounts meant tapping into extreme supply chains reaching as far as Sri Lanka. East Anglia also used the technology of warfare as an expression of wealth, best seen in the ceremonial Sutton Hoo helmet. Its overall design mimics Swedish Vendel styles, proving tight cultural and trade links with the northern Germanic world. But look at the structural vaulting of the face mask and the heavy iron. This is a single vaulted iron skull, a technological difference that marks it as localized English craftsmanship. The deep cheek pieces aren't just decorative, they are a superior design feature intended purely for psychological intimidation on the battlefield. East Anglia synthesized global materials with superior domestic engineering, transforming international resources into a unique apparatus of military intimidation. Once the wealth was in place, the tomb was sealed. Earth was piled high over the timber chamber and Warship, burying it in darkness. Over the following centuries, the immense accumulating weight of the earthen mound caused the timber chamber roof to violently collapse. The wood rotted away entirely in the acidic soil, leaving only the ghostly imprint of iron rivets suspended in the sand. This brings us to the macroeconomic concept of sunk cost as a deliberate, aggressive political weapon. They took immense liquid wealth, gold coinage, Byzantine silver, and master-crafted weapons, and permanently removed it from economic circulation. By burying this capital, Rædwald signaled to rival kingdoms that East Anglia possessed so much wealth they could afford to literally throw it in the dirt. The real message, however, was the external structure of the earthen mound itself. It was strategically positioned high on the ridge above the River Deben. This placement ensured the mound was highly visible to any foreign or domestic ship entering the estuary below. It functioned as a permanent billboard of state power. Every merchant or envoy sailing past received a constant reminder of the regime's capacity to mobilize both labor and wealth. While the competing Heptarchy kingdoms were transient and fractured, constantly shifting borders in the mud, this monument was immovable. The Sutton Hoo Ship Burial is the ultimate proof of East Anglian hegemony. It is a 7th century geopolitical constitution, written in oak, iron, and gold.